Okay, guys, we're getting into spoilers now. So if you haven't seen the film, get on out of here. Come back after you've seen Dark Fate. I don't know why I'm doing a Scottish accent because Terminator's got nothing to do with Scotland. Anyway, let's talk about where we really need to start. The opening scene of this is a very fitting place to start the spoiler part of the review. John Connor gets fucking mowed down.
Oh, yeah.
So this is something that I've seen a lot of people get really upset about, which I don't understand.
I'm not upset about it.
You can understand it, surely.
Oh, no, I can understand it, but I like when you think about it for more than 2 seconds, not only does this not really matter, but it's almost the only way to continue this series.
No, but you've heard of Alien 3, right?
What about it?
You know,
like people hate that movie because they killed
right.
two fan favorite characters from the previous film right at the beginning, after a whole movie of trying to save them.
Yeah.
Like you can understand how people who have loved Terminator 2 for 30 years are like, holy fuck, they just killed him at the beginning.
It makes it feel inconsequential. It makes like why did it matter about Terminator 2?
Yeah, and I don't feel this way at all, but I can understand how people who really care about the franchise would be upset about that.
I mean, again, I think they give it.
I thought it was such a let's shock. We got to do something really shocking in this, and that's like this really strange mechanic that Skynet kept sending Terminators back. And there was 7 Terminators.
They were all Arnold.
and they were all Arnold after they'd sent a T-1000. Arnold was the good one that they reprogrammed back. Don't worry about that. I don't know. For me, it just didn't quite work. And I thought they did a great job with the de-aging on John Connor. But Sarah Connor and Arnie was almost there, but it wasn't quite there for me.
I thought all 3 were the best I've ever seen.
I thought it was really good.
We discussed this yesterday. I was mind blown. Definitely, especially by John Connor. Yeah. But I thought all 3 were fantastic.
I thought Sarah Connor and John Connor were really good. Arnie was a bit not 100%, but
definitely
really
that
good.
order. John, Sarah, Arnie. But I really think all 3 were up there with the best I've ever seen.
Yeah.
The only other thing I'd compare it to is Michael Douglas in Ant-Man.
I thought they did.
Listen, it looked fantastic. Don't get me wrong.
But to your point, from the story point of view, I didn't see it as something shocking. I saw it more as something logistical. They've had so many stabs at the John Connor character. Nobody's been able to make it work past him being like a 12-year-old, because what is he? He's the chosen one. He's some special guy. What's so special about him? So I thought this was a really good way for them to say, with the T2, they did avert the apocalypse, but whatever was meant to be special about him in some nebulous timeline that we've never actually seen, that's not what it was. It was him as the kid, and what Sarah Connor did with him then. Yeah. And they did manage to avert that particular apocalypse. And I love, just quickly as well, that it was Arnold who killed him, because I think the way that plays for the rest of the film is great.
Yes. So,
but again, from just a story point of view, all dumb.
We'll talk about that Arnold bit. We'll talk about that Arnold bit.
This is kind of something that then I like that, because it was like, okay, we're gonna get like a fresh kind of universe. Like it's a new timeline. Like, what are they gonna do with it? How are they gonna spice it up? And then it ends up being that
there's just another evil AI.
Another one.
Yeah, it's not Skynet, but it's just Skynet.
It's Legion. And they're Terminators with red eyes, and they're called Terminators.
They just make Terminators,
but what I was actually going to say was that there's just another John Connor character, except it's a woman, and
Linda Hamilton says that in the movie.
Dumb line. Yeah, very dumb line.
She even goes, "You're
John.
You're basically the John of this one."
Yeah, but it also invalidates John as a character. I mean, we're getting the nitpicky part.
No, we got to, because this is where this whole thing falls
completely
apart.
invalidates the John character, and it exposes, or more deeply exposes.
How does that?
So it basically means that, I mean, the thing that never really quite gelled with me is that John Connor is special because he's the leader of resistance, as though there is only one person, charismatic enough or strategically minded enough that could possibly defeat the machines. And this kind of proves that point, in not only as maybe you could just put that doubt aside and say he had some kind of special knowledge, or just was genuinely that charismatic. But this goes on to prove that John Connor doesn't need to be there. Someone else will take that place as being the charismatic one that people gravitate towards and creates the resistance. It just kind of invalidates this idea that you need a chosen one. And I thought that this was an opportunity to create a different reason why that person was special. But it just ends up, oh yeah, they're just charismatic.
So I would love to say that I actually think the complete opposite. Shocking, I know. That I think this actually is the first time I've ever seen the John Connor story make sense. Because, as I said before, what is special about this guy? Why he just happens to be the guy who led the resistance. And so it feels like humanity is able to win this time war through the robots being so logical. Their machine thinking says if we take out John Connor, then we win. But this movie shows that it wasn't John Connor; it was humanity. It was people coming together to stop them. So
but they're still protecting the John Connor,
totally. But that could be anyone. Like anytime they send someone back to kill whoever, there will be someone else to do it. So I know that's not really explicitly said in this movie, but for me, it kind of got something that's always been nagging at me because John Connor he's just an angry Christian Bale. Who is he? What does he do? He yells at lighting technicians. Okay. I liked that this was more, it's not John Connor, it's humans kind of being able, when humans are able to rally and come together.
It just invalidates the whole, we need to protect this person, which was the whole thoroughfare. Like that's what this movie was about. Let's protect the chosen one.
And I don't think the logistics of the Terminator franchise hold up at all through any of the movies. So yeah. I'm not going to defend that, but I do kind of like that point.
I like the wavelength you're going on there because it almost feels like Legion and Skynet is just sort of like the inevitability that AI will become to fruition and
the inevitability that humans will
stand up and fight against that.
Yeah.
But then I agree with you, Connor. It's like, no, it was Daniela or whatever, Danny, that character was very specifically like, Mackenzie Davis wasn't like, listen, if you go down, we need to just make sure that cunts are working together because, have I ever said the C word on this podcast? I apologize to everyone. It's a very Australian thing for everyone in the USA. It's just normal talk. You say this in business meetings and stuff. But do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So I can see both sides of the spectrum, but I feel like it's wanting to have its cake and eat it too. It didn't. It didn't go, we're going this way, we're going that way. It's going, we're going to go somewhere in the middle.
I don't think it was fully realized. Certainly.
Yeah. And just while we're on that kind of thing, one of the things that just felt like a nothing reveal was the fact that it wasn't her son; it was her. That was so unsatisfying to me because they built it up as this Linda Hamilton went out of the way to be like, you're just a womb type speech, which was like, fuck, this seems really forced dialogue, and this is obviously not the case. Don't try and make this out to be a reveal, and they did. And that's where I felt like this movie kind of became like it set itself up to be complex, but then never really pulled anything off. And it's the same thing with the Arnie reveal. I felt like set itself up to, spin some webs and then just kind of, fluffed it.
So I don't like all of the execution. I did like, mostly as an element of Sarah Connor's character, her bitterness.
Yes.
That she was just a pawn in all of this, that her whole life has just been dedicated to this dead son that she now has. Mm-hmm. I really like that element of her having to live to her now kind of older age. It all kind of meant nothing or something. I don't know. I like the way she was portrayed.
Her arc was really great. I will definitely agree with you there.
Yeah. And I like that she got that, her story kind of being retold, but in a more satisfying way for her. I don't know.
But but by that stage in the reveal, there was no semblance. I was like, she is John Connor.
Yeah.
Totally.
And it was kind of like,
that's what I mean. Even if they had resolved that dialogue when she said it, because there was also no reason for Mackenzie Davis to not tell her that she is, the chosen one. Like, what was the advantage in not telling her? It just didn't make any sense. It was purely as a narrative device with no reasoning behind it.
We're 3/4 way through the movie. Now this has to happen.
Yeah, then we get a big old flash forward of her being that chosen one, and you should have just left that all up to the imagination.
Now, was 100%. It me, oh, did she look younger in the future? Like, I was tripping out for a minute, man. I was like, the makeup and the production design and the costume.
She didn't look older.
Exactly the same age. Yeah.
To me, she looked like 14, and then she was 21 in the real timeline.
Yeah, it was weird.
I was tripping out. I was tripping the fuck out. I was like, your continuity team's doing a terrible job here.
Look, yeah, it did. A couple more kind of negative comments, and then we'll get to stuff that I enjoyed, because I know we've been overbearingly negative. Which is kind of the main. We talk about this a lot in our non-spoiler review, which is, a lot more positive, because we're talking about the overall experience of this film, not the nitty-gritty, which is kind of what we get to in the spoilers.
But seriously, they sent 6 Terminators back?
Yeah,
seriously.
That. Well, I was going to talk about is the reasoning behind why there is a good Terminator, and this idea that he was just left to the world and he just sort of grew a consciousness. That feels like, again, just a lazy narrative thing.
And goes completely against that line that Kyle Reese gives in Terminator 1, where it's like, this thing is clinical. It doesn't have a heart. It doesn't have a soul. It will mow you down. It'll kill everything in its path to get you. Oh, and now he spawns a consciousness. Now, I think it's quite an interesting concept. I quite like it. But does it fit within the Terminator franchise, and did they make it work?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I did enjoy Carl. I thought Arnie gave some of the best performance he's done in so long, and I laughed. I laughed. I enjoyed it. And this comes back to the whole thing I was saying in the non-spoiler part of the review. Like, in the moment, I enjoyed it. When I thought about it, I thought...
Yeah. So, I mean, like, the explanation was painful. Like, the performance after the explanation was great. Which is like, I kind of forced myself not to think about it too much. Like, nonetheless, it was a bit annoying.
What was your take on that?
They sold it completely for me.
Okay.
I really loved it. I think it is a fascinating idea. And I love the way they sold it. Just, he had one objective, kill John Connor. He did it. And then suddenly the most advanced piece of technology that's ever existed with artificial intelligence is just wandering around this world with no purpose. He has to discover a purpose. I think that's so interesting. And
but then why did
concept level? Yes,
I agree. I completely agree. It's just like, why did Arnie put himself in the lava in Terminator 2?
I don't remember.
I'm pretty sure it's because he's like, his objective's complete,
right?
And it's like, I'm done.
No, it was because he didn't want the chip to fall in the wrong hands.
Okay.
But I mean, like, there's a mechanical reason as to why he is able to learn in that.
Whoa.
There's a mechanical reason.
Scary.
As to why he's like able to learn. Like, don't they actually, like,
they have to flip a switch so that he's not read only or whatever.
Yeah.
It's whatever, but it's just this one was switched to the other mode. It's a different Terminator, so whatever. Obviously, this one is able to learn. That's the main thing about it. Yeah. I feel like you just have to go with it.
You know what I wish I'd seen is a flashback of, like, just after he mowed down John Connor and he's just like on the beach.
The sunset, like,
looking up, waves.
Well, I assumed he just walked back into the water. Yeah. And just walked to another country.
Chilled with the whales for a bit.
Yeah.
Look, so that, like, as with this entire film, once you start getting into the nitty gritty, once you start, like, picking at plot points, it just falls apart in my eyes very quickly.
But the broader themes and whatnot are very interesting.
Yeah.
I loved Sarah having to confront her son's killer, and
those scenes were great.
Yeah,
those scenes were really great.
Those were really great.
What was I going to say? I was going to say something about this Arnie thing.
The time travel mechanic. Did that frustrate you at all? I actually,
the text,
oddly enough, I was fine with that.
With the what?
Not even the text, but like the fact that they had sent, like, they had explained it in a weird way. Like, 6 had been sent. And even though that universe didn't exist, or that timeline didn't exist anymore, they had already been sent, so to speak. Which I thought was like, it's. I can't quite piece it all together in my mind.
So in one moment in 2030, whatever, they send all Terminators back. You're going to 1984. You're going to 1991. You're going to 2019. Yes. You're going to here, and that's it. So they all go in time, and then as the time catches up, that moment, then
Yeah, because the
appear.
change universe needs them there. Like I suppose, like it kind of makes sense in my head, but I just
You know what?
I gave that a pass. I was like, okay, yeah, cool.
This whole thing, this whole Terminator thing is kind of like predestination. It's Terminator 1 at least is like
Terminator 1 that's a closed loop.
that's a closed loop.
Every other movie completely ruins it.
Exactly.
There's no way you can reconcile any of it because they
Terminator
make it so
2
clear.
gets close.
They make it so clear that you can change the future and the past and everything. Nothing has to connect to anything. There's different universes and parallel whatevers. It's all insane. I think this movie is incredibly consistent with the rest of the franchise in that it's not consistent.
It makes like, I mean, one makes the most sense as to why John Connor is in fact special, because he's dealt with the Terminator before the Terminators become a thing. Like that, you know.
Can I jump onto Genesis for a sec again?
Yeah,
Yes.
sure.
I fucking love the beginning of that movie where John Connor is sending Kyle Reese back. And you know John Connor knows that he's sending him back to bonk his mum.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's such a, like, it's so, there's no way to do that that's not hilarious.
Does he bro hug him?
Like, he's like looking
Go get
around,
him, bro.
like he's looking around for volunteers to go back in time. He's like, yeah, it's you. Go on, Jai Courtney. Go say hi to me, ma.
Captain Boomerang. Whatever the
Here's a
fuck it is.
photo of her. Fuck. It's so good.
You respect the fuck out of her, young.
You look after her.
God,
You take her out to
that's
dinner
so
first.
What? Nothing.
So good.
God.
But yeah, do you guys want to talk about some? All right, some
We
positive-
haven't talked about the Rev 9. We haven't talked about the Terminator
Oh.
of the Terminator film.
Loved it.
Um,
That
Awesome.
was fantastic.
That's cool. I was just speaking to someone who didn't like him at all yesterday. I really liked him.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
it's
great.
It gets to the point where it's a bit ridiculous. It's just like every Terminator, there just needs to be like a gimmick.
Mm.
And you know, it doesn't really have to make sense. It doesn't have to be better or worse or anything like that. But
Other than Genesis.
in terms of the
course.
gimmicks, this one I thought visually looked hectic, like really cool.
Much better step forward as well than the Terminatrix in T3, which was worse than the T1000 easily. Like it could create its own
She
weapons
sparked
Oh,
and
that's right. Yeah.
and she could
malfunction and
make big
whatnot.
boobs, but she had no liquid metal parts to her. So this one combining the two was really cool because it had the strengths of both and sort of the weaknesses of both, but they could kind of counteract that each other.
I remember what I was going to talk about with the Arnie thing. Is this a good time to talk about it, or
Sure. I don't know. Like we're all over the place already, so there's no consistency.
something occurred to me? Then I thought like I don't know if this is any correlation here. But you know how Arnie had that illegitimate child with one of
Why
his
is it
staff?
illegitimate?
Huh?
Oh, like you
With
mean
his staff.
in
In
real,
real
life?
life. Arnold-
Oh, right.
Yeah, Arnold
You're talking about like the kid in the.
Sorry,
I was like,
I
what
should
are you-
have
what?
added a bit more context there. Arnold Schwarzenegger in real life had an illegitimate child with one of his staff.
It's a bit rough calling him legitimate. Whatever. Sorry,
But he
Let's go on.
didn't admit that he was the father for many years.
Yeah. Sorry. Go on.
So I'm pretty sure that qualifies.
And he was married to another woman.
Is there something here where he's trying to like say I'm the good guy, or like is there something about him coming in with this family with the mother and the son? Yeah, for some reason that seemed.
That's a
I'm
weird
not, and I'm not saying.
parallel.
I just felt like it was there, and I don't know if there's any meaning behind it, but it was an interesting sort of selection of individuals that paralleled a reality that happened, and he was going to help this kid, and he was going to help this family and save this family, and I'm not sure if there's a message there. I just thought it was something very interesting.
Definitely interesting.
Yeah.
I'm kind of interested to find out what actually happened with the real situation now, how much he did look after them.
He's a beast, son.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he
God,
looks
that is-
solid.
Dear God, I wonder if he knew, like, growing up that he was the son of
It's a
Arnold
weird tangent to be
Schwarzenegger.
taking in a dark
Can you
fate
imagine?
conversation.
Can
But
you imagine that?
yeah, I don't know. I didn't really think about
Did
that
you
too
like?
much.
I really liked Mackenzie Davis's Enhanced. I thought
Yep.
they
Cool
did a
concept.
really great job there, and
Great gimmick to it.
Great gimmick.
Absolutely loved the first fight scene with Luna. Like I thought that
Brilliant.
In the factory.
in the factory,
Yeah.
so cool.
And how it turns into the car chase scene.
Yeah.
And I thought, and I think that's what you were referencing, Benny, is this like was quite front ended in terms of the action. Like they could have probably cut that up into two separate sequences and sprinkled that throughout the piece.
But I loved it. I loved how it moved. I loved just the choreography of their fight.
Really well done.
Yeah, really, really spectacular.
Props to Tim Miller there.
Yeah. And it's such a good introduction to her. I also liked her. It's a bit of a throwaway line, but her line about like I volunteer to be enhanced. I was so fascinated to find out like what's the mechanics or what kind of culture is there? Like, is this something that like if you're a dying soldier you can volunteer, and who wouldn't volunteer? Like,
or is it like super frowned upon because they're in a war against robots?
Exactly. Like,
you don't want to be like a half robot person.
I was so fascinated by that, and it's such a throwaway line, but I'd like to think that the filmmakers or the writers and all that kind of stuff built a mythos behind that, and it wasn't just a throwaway line. Even if it was, like, I love the implications.
You've totally sparked my interest there.
Yeah.
I really wish, because I wasn't loving the flashback scenes in this. And when we did get that big sort of exposition-y flashback scene, it just looked like Salvation. Like, I thought there were so many missed opportunities. It literally looked like Salvation. I thought I would have loved to, if you're going to go and do a flashback, I would have loved to have seen something a little more nuanced.
You know what I really loved was the flashback to the original Judgment Day that they averted with all of the original flavor Terminators walking around shooting purple lasers. I thought that was gorgeous and so cool.
Yeah,
it looked
so
great.
Interesting. Yeah,
I thought the CG was pretty damn good in this.
Across the board, really, really good CGI. I mean, speaking of CGI, I thought even though it was good CGI, it felt pretty heavy, pretty much from the plane scene onwards. That I had some problems with.
Left a lot to be desired.
Yeah, because pretty much from the time that they get on that plane and they leave the door open for God knows whatever reason.
Yes.
And that's where I started kind of clocking out a little bit, because I loved the simplicity of just the chase movie, and I didn't need it to be big, or I didn't need like planes falling out of the sky for 20 minutes. Like, I
shoot it practically, I'm in. Shoot it
even
CG,
then,
I'm
like,
bored as fuck.
It's just, and then when they were like under the dam, like there's only, it's weird. It feels easier to suspend belief for like time travel machines coming to kill someone than it does to suspend belief that they're just somehow under the Hoover Dam or the equivalent of.
Oh my God, sorry.
Just like popping out, like, it's just silly.
In Genesis, when they flip that bus on the Golden Gate Bridge,
Honestly, I can't remember.
It is the most insane car crash in history.
It's a front flip, right? It's
like, flips over a bunch of times, lands on the ground, spins on its side a whole bunch, then like falls off the bridge. And Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese are just in there, fine. She has a seatbelt on, he doesn't. I'm like, wow, this is insanity. Like, I have a very high resistance to complaining about that stuff generally, but that was just insane.
Yeah. Look, I started to find myself
I was getting fatigued.
Not as engaged during that third quarter.
I completely agree. I thought like that they had 5 minutes in that sequence they needed to trim out. Like, it kind of kept evolving. And then now they're on the dam. Now they're in the dam. Now and it was just like, okay, I'm fucking done here, man.
There was one or too many. Oh, it's still alive. Like, it really surprised me. Oh man, he's still going okay.
And then Arnie sacrificing himself at the end. I was like, we've already done this, and we've done it far better. Why?
I felt something for it.
I felt something as well.
Him and Mackenzie.
I felt something a lot more for Mackenzie.
I got a little tinge in the old beaten heart there. Which more than most blockbusters this year, I feel.
What sold it for me in terms of Arnie sacrificing himself again was 100% Linda Hamilton. That interaction, that kind of relationship that had built, I thought really it did a good job. But I
think it's interesting that we have not talked at all about the John Connor of this, Danny. We really haven't focused on that character, and I think that is kind of,
it's telling.
It's telling, and I didn't love the character, and she didn't do
liked
that much.
The actor. I thought did a good job. She did nothing wrong.
No, it was what was given to her.
It was what was given to her, and I felt like a lot of I think a good thing that the first and even the second did is that it didn't try to show why John was so special in terms of like this one. They were like, oh, let's have her make a inspirational speech, and that's never going to be as convincing as kind of leaving it up to the imagination to like imagine that they are so charismatic that people could follow them.
I did like what was a fairly subtle change from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie of just how involved she was in the action and how capable she was. I thought that was just at least there was a little arc there for her. But yeah, definitely the least compelling of all the characters in the film. But on the other side, I do like how, like I said earlier, how this movie kind of acknowledges that John Connor is not the important thing necessarily.
Yeah, I think again, like it just kind of goes both ways because then it like if he isn't important, then neither is she.
Yeah,
and then the whole reason that they're doing this is like I thought that they were gonna like give it a more solid. That was also the thing that I had hoped that they were gonna do with one of the things that I thought was gonna happen, and I was kind of interested to see how they were gonna work in with it was that the T-1000, like old Arnie, had actually been sent back with the intention to kill John Connor as like an intentional move by even Danny, or like someone in that future, or the way that I thought it was going to go is like John from that timeline was like losing the war, and he's like, we need like a reset, we need a different leader, or we need to do it again. Reboot. So like send a Terminator to kill himself or something like that. I just thought there was going to be a little bit more of a closed loop or like something that was going to like
a bit more interesting,
give reason to why this Terminator had just sat around for X amount of years. I would have even forgiven the whole growing a conscience if there was something behind it that I kind of felt was a bit more, meaningful to the plot.
This franchise has done so little with the potential of a literal time war. As a whole, like it's really, it works out well for like the first couple of movies, but I think that the series obviously delves into it quite a lot. But they've really done the bare basics.
So I would have appreciated to see that just as it was. It just didn't really kind of gel for me. But so at the end, it just meant that Danny wasn't important. The Terminator just happened to grow a conscience. Like it just kind of felt a little bit
improbable.
Like, not even just improbable, just like it just didn't feel interesting.
You guys have anything else to add? Because I'd like to know if this is your Terminator 3 or is Rise of the Machines your Terminator 3? Or do you need to go back and give it a revisit?
Terminator Genesis is my Terminator 3.
There is no Terminator 3.
Is this the best from Terminator 3 or even Salvation, Genesis, and this one? Would you say this is the best? How do you rank? Essentially, how do you rank this in your Terminators? If you're going to put 1 and 2, or 2, 1 as the
obviously
top 2.
In the top 2, yeah.
I don't love 1, to be honest.
I love 1.
I watched it in a double feature in the cinema a few years back. I watched it with RoboCop, and I'm like, man, this movie's aged a lot worse than RoboCop has.
It feels so first feature-y.
80s.
Yeah.
But yeah, for otherwise, I would say Terminator 1, T2, and then this. If I was to watch this as a series, this could be my number 3.
Okay.
It's on par with Salvation, I think.
I never forgave Rise of the Machines for killing Sarah Connor off screen from cancer. What a unfortunate follow up! What an unfortunate follow up to that awesome second film.
Hey, at least he didn't kill him on screen in some kind of tropical paradise, right?
I like that. I will say
I like that.
I like this movie a lot overall.
Bloodshed.
I like this movie a lot overall. If we're wrapping up, but the first 10 minutes or so, there's the what I assume is a deleted scene from the second film or the first film.
So good.
Was such a terrific start.
What was the deleted scene? Sorry,
Sarah Connor in custody, screaming about how.
Oh yeah. I thought
everyone thinks she's crazy.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Also, quick side note: everyone has to stop saying there's a robot trying to kill me in this franchise. Say there's a man trying to kill me. People will believe that.
Yeah,
because it's also kind of true.
More
just imagine when she's talking to her uncle. You're not going to believe this. I'm like, no, he's not.
Just say there's people after us.
Well, he's he cracked it.
Cracked it. The first 10 minutes of this movie, involving that flashback, then on the beach, and then also the Terminators just storming the beach. That was like 10 out of 10 for me. I'm like, oh my god, am I gonna love this movie?
Yeah.
And overall, it was nowhere near those heights, but I did like it a lot.
Yeah. As I kind of alluded to both in my non-spoiler review and a bit in the spoiler review, this movie is a good movie if you don't think about it too much. If you don't lay too many expectations. And I mean, you can probably say that about most films, but in terms of just being like a dumb action film, I really clicked with this film. I thought the first 2/3 was really spot on, particularly in terms of the action and the pacing and the relationships between the characters. Like, I mean, the relationship between Sarah Connor and
the T-800,
Mackenzie Davis.
Mackenzie Davis.
Oh, yep.
I was trying to remember her character's name. I just can't do it. Was really good. Like that kind of blossoming friendship. The relationship between Arnie and Linda Hamilton was really good as well. Like I think that all played really well. One thing I do want to mention as a side point, the whole idea of a Terminator is to infiltrate, right? I thought that Luna, or like the Terminator in this, the bad Terminator, did the best job out of any Terminator ever of actually infiltrating, of being like, there were moments where he felt like a human, like he was just, like, how's your day type thing. And I was like, oh, fuck, that's cool. Because he goes from like so emotionless to like trying to convince someone to do something that it felt like this was a smart machine that could study human behavior and mimic it at least.
He was very much in the Robert Patrick mold and not the 6'8" Austrian bodybuilder infiltration unit.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Agree.
But overall, it's a fun film.
Yeah, it's a solid film. I really did enjoy it. And all these concepts are really fantastic, and talking about with you guys has been really great. But ultimately, like, it doesn't within the mechanics it sets up, and the watertightness is just not quite to the level that for me to make it feel like it's a really fantastic film. And you know me, I'll give sci-fi a pass any day of the week. This one doesn't quite get there, but there's enough awesome stuff in here that I probably will see this many more times, a bunch more times over the years.
This feels like I probably won't ever address it again.
I'll probably watch it 1 or 2 more times before I cark it.
Right.
Is that a good way to end it?
Yeah.
Well, that's the way it's going to end. Doesn't matter if it's good or bad or whatever. See ya. We'll see you next week, guys.
We'll be back.
We've got Dark Sleep.
We didn't talk about
Doctor Sleep. And we've got Dark Irishman.
Dark Irishman.
Don't know where I'm going with that one.
Not sure about that.
Let's move on swiftly and say goodbye to Connor.
Bye.
And we'll say goodbye to Ben.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.